maybe earlier this year or so on. There's an image of the Pope, right, wearing this jacket, this white jacket and so on. It's almost like a white puffy jacket, and some people actually thought it was the Pope, right? And how you can't tell people that that's not the Pope because the image looks so real. But there's nothing to say that this image is generated by AI, right? This was generated by Midjourney or any other AI tool, right? I mean, maybe you can look into the metadata or so, but there's nothing that actually says that. So it is very dangerous right now in terms of
Yeah.
in
But
every
Leon,
aspect.
you can guarantee that it's going to be regulated though, because even with the AI voice generator stuff, like you have people generating
Yeah.
voice from people and then coming back and sending text message to somebody, a voice note, for example,
Mm-hmm.
oh, this is grandma, send the money come. Like you think scamming was in before, yo, the, the reality is these things are going to be regulated at some point. And so our approach at OneJess is we incorporate technology, we use it while we can to generate efficiencies, but we have to be careful how we pivot our revenue models around some technologies that are unregulated, because we have to wait and see where it settles, right? Because at the end of the day, we want to be in a business that we know going to be around. And I can't promise you that the generative AI tools that we have right now are going to be exactly the same next year or the year after, right?
Sure.
There might be some features that are limited, right? There might be some features that you can't access, and things might. What happens? All right, let's set this a little. I'm a nerd sometimes, right? So let's get
Same.
nerd.
So I love
Let's
that.
get nerd with this. Everybody uses ChatGPT. People stop writing content. Instead, everybody go to ChatGPT to write content. ChatGPT starts learning from content generated by ChatGPT. And that's all it has access to now because everybody stopped writing.
Content.
Is the output better than it is right now or worse than it is right now?
It's a very good question.
All right, I have a next question. What happens when people start feeding ChatGPT a whole bunch of malicious information? And
Truly.
ChatGPT not filtering it. And people are just intentionally feeding it stuff in mass using ChatGPT, for example. So you generate 10,000 pages worth of copy about a specific topic from ChatGPT, publish it on your website, and then ChatGPT crawls it and incorporates it as learning. Like there is like a lot that can happen through that. So I am not confident that it's the same next year as it is this year or the year after, right? But for now, it's technology that can be used, I think. And I think it's awesome to see what technology is doing. But I do think we have to be sober in how we incorporate technology into our revenue models. Incorporating into your operating model is one thing. Like using it to generate the efficiencies is one thing. Making your money bank on it is a different thing, I think. So it's one thing to use it for cost saving versus I'm going to earn money doing this.
Truly. And then you have to respond to shareholders now. So you have to also keep them at the back of your mind, in the back of your mind, and so on.
We stay learning, and people on the team are learning and all that stuff. But one thing I can say, you asked the question about SEO. I want to just answer you straight because I want you to feel like I go around, right? So,
Okay.
first thing when it comes to search is that it's all about beating your competitors. And if you're using the same technique that your competitors are using, then you're at no advantage, right? And so that's the one thing here is that sometimes ChatGPT can be generic. It depends on the person to tell it what to do. And so at the end of the day, somebody has to know how to tell it what to do, right? And that's something that the more advanced you get is that even that going to be a skill set that going to be a differentiator between pro agencies and amateur agencies, for example, is how they use tools, right? So at the end of the day, you have to know what you're doing with it. And I can guarantee you that Google is also learning, and that for people who are generating 1,000 pages per day using ChatGPT, their Google Smack is coming at some point in the future. And I'll share one of the GIFs with you so you can see what that looks like.
100%. I'd
But
love to see
when
it.
Google slap you, your site disappears, right?
Yeah.
and they have a thing. Google is pushing ever since ever since the rise of generative AI. What Google has started to push is useful content, right? And saying that content, we don't care how the content is generated as long as it's useful. And the truth is, if the content is useful, then that's great. But how do you ensure that content generated from ChatGPT is useful? as Chanel said, we've been experimenting with different things. So is it cheaper to just give somebody an article to write, or is it cheaper to have it being assisted where you use ChatGPT and have to edit it? Editors cost more than writers per hour, right? So that's
I
something
did
that we've
not know that.
experimented as well with, and say,
Yeah,
because then you have to fact check everything, because ChatGPT is in a habit right now. Again, it could get better, but it's in a habit right now of telling lies, right?
yeah.
And
I remember
so
there's
you
not
have
just
to check
Chat
it.
GPT, you know, like there
All
are
of
other
them.
AIs that, for example, that they actually start to the which one is it? I don't remember the name, but there's this one that it actually shows a lot of the citations and stuff. So it will give you the points, but it gives you the reference to it. So
Yeah,
you know,
which is important,
Very
right?
important.
But then, and then you can also tell it use trusted sources only. But then again, so that's now coming into all the knowing how to use tools, right? Because if you go in there and just generate stuff, you will get a goose, man, right? And
Yeah.
at the end of the day, our clients don't really pay us to generate content; they pay us to tell them what to do, right? And to know what to do. And I think that's going to be key going forward, is that businesses have to know what they're doing. And that's part of the reason why we serve our clients, because digital is changing so fast and they need somebody to help them to navigate the space. And we want to be the people helping them to navigate the space, even as things change.
Okay. Okay. I love that. Shaniel, I do have a question for you, right? I guess also for Japan too, but uh, in terms of now the cybersecurity space. So I guess most of our listeners would know that there was a big data leak with Mayberry and so on, and other entities, of course, not just Mayberry, but that's the biggest one that we've heard of in recent times. People's personal data got leaked and so on. How is it that 1GS, either one of you can answer, of course, is protecting people's data um, from those kind of threats?
All right, so I'll go first. So, as you said, yes, we have no legislation in place in Jamaica that deals with data protection. This is the Data Protection Act, which comes fully in force this year, November 30th, because we're in like a transition period, allowing people who hold the data that is being protected under the act to get everything in place. The
And those
type
are
of data,
data controllers, the
right?
people
So
that
the
hold
type of
people's data. Okay.
Right. The type of data protected is really personal data and sensitive personal data. It does not cover data on the company, like the company's information or the name or things like that. So it has to be linked to an individual. Individuals Persons who hold the personal data, as you said, are called data controllers. And the obligations, majority of the obligations, if not all, under the Data Protection Act are on the data controller. They have to ensure that they have the right to use it, they have the consent to transfer it, they have to show how they store it. If there's a breach, they have to make reports to a new regulator, which is called the Information Commissioner, and to make certain reports to that Information Commissioner about when something went wrong, what they've done to correct it, and to ensure it doesn't happen again. A data controller can transfer or outsource the processing of that data to someone called a data processor. And the data processor is basically acting under the instructions of the data controller as to how to process or manipulate the data to be used by the data controller in their day-to-day business. So an example, a bank would have the personal data and the bank would be the data controller. And then the bank may outsource a company. I don't want to say 1GS because I don't know if that's a service that they're going to offer, but they will hire a company that will say, here's a personal, here's a personal data of my customers. Can you give me some charts or document to show all the people who are over 50? That would require them to process the data. That data processor would then still report to the bank. The ultimate obligation still rests with the data controller. The data controller cannot push their obligation or liability to the data processor. So when it comes to the Data Protection Act, the person who controls the data, how it is used and manipulated, is the one that needs to ensure that they don't infringe on the rights of the individual, that kind of thing. Um, Currently, 1GS really has corporate clients, to my knowledge. And so when it comes to data protection, their focus is really on, in the event they're asked to process any data of their clients, which includes personal data, to ensure that their obligation to the data controller, which will be their client, is not breached. But to the ultimate individual, which is their client's customer, that obligation stays with the client. So as it is now, 1GS fully comply with the Data Protection Act, And in the event they onboard individuals, they will then take on board all the obligations under the Data Protection Act and ensure that that information is kept in accordance with the act. To the extent they keep information now for their employees, I know that OneGS has a nice little system where they store the personal information to ensure it is secure and protected, and that that information, of course, is only retained for as long as it is needed, especially when an
And
employee leaves.
that system is HIPAA compliant.
There you
Love
go.
that. Love that. Love
So
that.
So I know when people hear data protection, they just think, oh my gosh, data protection. Once I have some information, I need to ensure I'm compliant. But it goes a little bit deeper than that. You have to ensure that you are first collecting the data being protected, which is personal data. And then you have to understand whether you're a data controller or a data processor, and then comply with those obligations. The Data Protection Act mirrors really what we call the GDPR in the European Union. The same kind of provisions, having the standards of compliance and things like that, and just ensuring that on a global scale, we're trying to manage data and the transfer of data, especially in this world and the internet and how things just fly across the internet. Um, when the act comes in force, it will be interesting though to see how, for me at least, I think personally, to see how procedurally it is actually enforced. Especially when we live in a world where everywhere you go, your TRN is basically up on a whiteboard in a building. Your TRN now will be personal data that needs to be
Yes.
protected because your TRN can identify specifically Shaniel May or Javane Brownie. So it's interesting to see how business operations will change when November 30th comes, and what information they collect. Because again, the Act also includes things like you should collect only the information that is necessary for you to carry out what you need to do. So you asking me for 10
Yeah.
different things and you don't really need it, will be interesting. But on the flip side, there's also balancing the Data
Oh.
Protection Act and the requirements under our Proceeds of Crime Act. So it's like having multiple pieces of legislation ask for different things, but trying not
Oh.
to um go against one. So on one act says collect only as much as you need, but one act says, guess what, you need to collect all its information because you fall under the obligations for monitoring, money laundering, and things like that. So it'll be interesting.
One thing I want to point out here as well is, and this is something that I've heard. I haven't heard this data protection question a lot for us at One, just because people perceive us to be at high risk for that reason, right? Because we do a lot of things online, and the reality is that the DPA, and Shaniel can correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding, again, this is like one of the areas that I've learned on. I actually reviewed this stuff with a group, the submission when it was in Senate. What do you call that, Shaniel?
The what? Oh,
Remember it
the
went
white
through Senate?
paper. So the bill.
Yeah, yeah, and they had like these different things where invited feedback and stuff like that. Yeah, so actually, it was a part of a group that reviewed and gave feedback on the act when it was in the Senate being reviewed, right? And so one of the interesting things for me is that to recognize that this is not just about digital information. This extends beyond that. So if you have a street cart and you collect the name of somebody who you trust something to and you write it down, Shani will come and trust a Big Joe, right? Big Joe still exists.
I
Yeah.
think so.
I think so.
And you write it down, right? And you put down her phone number. Like, that's data that you stored,
Yeah.
right? And the act also applies to you. So like, a part of the feedback that we were asking for at the time was, I hope there's gonna be some tiers in terms of the income. And I think they've done a lot of that stuff as well, having tiers with requirements and having different requirements for different people. Because at first it looked like sketchy, but recognize that it's not just about people who are online. This
Yeah.
includes people who are collecting data and storing in files,
Yeah.
like collecting data and storing anywhere at all, writing it down in
Yeah.
a book. Like, it's not just about online. Like, it's going to actually be easier to manage some of these things online than it is going to be if you have offline data records, right?
Yeah.
And so like, those are some of the things that it's important to know, that it extends beyond. This is not a digital act. This is an act that extends beyond digital into the physical world as well,
It does.
into physical data. Shania, you can correct me if I'm wrong, because
No,
again,
no,
I'm
no.
not an
And
attorney,
that's
but that was
definitely
something that was
accurate.
surprising to me.
Yeah, so the data, there's no definition of data being just digital data. It's definitely data that is whether digital or written, any type of any of that form. And another thing to add is even though we're waiting on this November 30 timeline, we're also waiting on the regulations, which will bring more
Yes,
light to what the act is supposed to carry out. So a lot of things in the act will say in the prescribed form or as prescribed by the commissioner, but the regulations have to come out to set that out. So
exactly.
again, when that comes
I'm
in place,
also interested, just like how you said you're interested. I'm interested to see what happens come December 1 because I'm not seeing much. I'm not hearing much from the Integrity Commission. I'm not hearing a lot of noise. And I did review the act. Well, I'm still trying to read it because legal writing is
it's a
It's
lot.
very,
dense.
very, very
It's dense.
difficult. Yeah, it's pretty dense. It's pretty dense. All right. And I understand
Yeah.
like there are two phases. So you have to like register, it's like registration and then compliance and so on. So
Yes.
I don't know
Yeah.
how a lot of companies are going to actually be onboarded with all of this because it does seem like a lot. Like a lot of companies, and I don't think it would necessarily pertain to OneGS because, as you say, it's not. It's more the clients, the corporate clients that are the data controllers, right? And they themselves would need a DPO and so on. So it's a lot of the responsibility would fall on them and not on you guys. From so when I was reading the prospectus, I kind of understood that. I kind of understood that. Sorry. So it'd be interesting to see when it actually is rolled out, what will happen and what the penalties actually are. Because I know, I just know our system and things take a while. So I'm not trying to say anything, Shanil. Don't crucify me. But yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. All right, Preston. Do you have any more questions?
Yes. So remember,
Yes.
we started speaking about this earlier. We were saying, do you guys invest on the Jamaica Stock Exchange or any other markets? Because we always like to ask our guests, like, give us even at least one or two stocks that you guys like and why.
Yes, so I do invest on the Jesse, and right now, NCB is one that looks good to me, right? Because especially because I had my first NCB stocks that I bought was above 200. Right? at that time at that time when people were like, yo, NCB to 250 next, right? And I was like, yeah man, let me have some NCB to 250. Not so.
Oh, boy.
Instead, so, so
Wow.
averaging down
Meant
is,
to be
is, is good, right?
72.
and so
Hmm.
and so so I think that price point is a good price point, for where the company is at. I understand those who've been looking for them dividend, and I guess a lot of those investors, want their dividends, right? And so I understand like what's happening with that stock right now as well. But I, fundamentally, like I like NCP at the price where it's at right now, to be honest.
Okay. I love that. Love that. Shanil, any company you like?
Yes. So I think Grace Kennedy is a staple. I guess my Grace Kennedy is Juvain's NCB. And another company which is on the junior market side is Spur Tree. Those two companies I definitely like. I think for me as an investor on the stock exchange, which I am, my portfolio is more like investing in different companies in different sectors. So I spread my risk. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm not investing in like all financial sectors. If something happens in the financial sector, there goes my investment. But again, this is not investment advice, This is just my
Yes.
personal view.
Glad.
Can
I
you
mean, we
can you
always
give
have
them
that disclaimer
can
in.
you give them my disclaimer? Can you what?
No, so we always have that disclaimer. A
Okay,
disclaimer is in the
okay.
description. We
Yeah.
always state, yes. So this is not financial advice. It's just our
Yeah, so I
opinions. It's
like
just for
NCB for
entertainment.
me at the current price.
Yeah.
For me, not for you.
Facts. I also do like NCB at this price, so I agree with you there. Like I think it's a nice price. Michael Leachin is now stepping in. He was very adamant about he wants his dividends and he wants
Yeah,
them now.
hey,
Haven't
that,
seen
that play
anything
was
about
very
that.
interesting, because like it was like rally instantly on them
Yeah,
news there.
yeah.
It was like rally instantly. Like at that point, NCB was about to like it wasn't like below 60 at the time, or it was
It was
like 20.
60s. It
It
was
was
definitely,
below
well, I know it had touched below 60 at some
60,
point, but
yeah.
I know when right before he came, when I was looking at it the day of him almost stepping back in, it was about 65, then it went straight up to 75. Just
Yeah.
like, oh, that could have been a nice little play.
Like
So
that could have been you.
yeah, exactly. So yeah, and he's back in. Let's see what he actually does with the company. I see he's very vocal. doing a lot, looking at staff members, maybe cutting staff
Yeah.
and so on. But he really wants his
Well,
dividends.
when Legion, like when they came in at NCB, it was like a whole overhaul at the time, you know. Like
Yeah,
and it wasn't easy for like the people going through it like that. Like when you hear stories from that time, it was difficult changes, but I think the company benefited from it over
yeah,
time. Yeah, we see what happens. I mean, at the price, I mean, it's just a price. I'm not even talking about everything. The price is just I couldn't believe when it was trading there. Put it this way, I couldn't believe it. I was like,
hmm
this can't be the same NCB. Like really, really, you know?
It's
yeah.
like a
That was
time. I always
200.
say it's like a time machine. The market sometimes will just almost reset. If you like the business at 200, below 100, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
I
And I
do.
guess
I
like
also like.
that's just the risk with like any public company, any public listed company. That's the risk. The market is up today and literally down
hmm
tomorrow.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, yeah. And I do like Grace. I actually like Grace probably more than
we go.
NCB because that 2030 vision, if you look at it, and some of the things that they've outlined, they're not going to reach where they want to do, like the revenue growth. I don't know. I don't remember the exact numbers. I'll probably post it in the description. But if you look at it, if you want to reach that level of growth by 2030, a lot of those things that they're gonna do, they can't do it 2029 and then get that growth by 2030.
Mm-mm.
And we're in 2023 now. So I am actually expecting some certain things to be happening maybe within maybe like next 2 years.
Cheers.
I know that they're heavy on the acquisitions.
I'm right
They're
there
they
with you.
just yep, they're announcing acquisitions right throughout the year. I'm expecting possibly another big one. I think they're spoken about maybe two more this coming up this year. And the
hmm
listing on the business, like how much money they're gonna raise from that, what they're gonna do with that money, probably more acquisitions, growing the business more, and then they've even spoken about a share buyback too.
yeah,
So, and they have some amount of cash to that they could allocate there. So, yeah, I think Grace is definitely one to watch.
yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
Multiple
To
streams of
watch.
income with the big group of companies,
hmm
That's one of the things I like. I like it when my companies diversify, but I don't really like diversification in terms of like buying multiple stocks. I try the company can diversify. I buy that company. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
Okay.
what do you do for fun outside of both you guys? So outside of I guess being a lawyer, what do you do, and then also outside of running 1GS, what do you guys do for fun?
Shani, you can go through with that first.
I'm just like, wow, because being a lawyer takes up so much of your time. I'm gonna be very real with you guys, especially a commercial lawyer where transactions are not 9 to 5. Transactions are when the transaction needs to get done. So for fun, I love soccer. So when it comes to carnival season, I'm there. I like
hmm
going to the beach. I like hanging out with my friends. I like to socialize. So whether that means going down the road to Encore to just have a glass of wine, or having a games night, or taking a drive out to Ocean to go to the beach. That's what I do for fun. I used to read for fun, but I'm gonna be very honest. I read so much now for my job that I don't read for fun anymore. Hopefully, I will get back to that. Um, and
That was me and medicine. I get that.
right now I'm a new mom, so I'm kind of deep diving into having a newborn and enjoying her while she's a newborn before she turns into a teenager like me, where she doesn't want to be around her parents. So I'm enjoying that moment right now.
Okay, and you like to go to the gym?
Oh yes, oh yeah, I forgot that. Definitely love to
Yeah.
go. Like the gym is
Yeah.
how I balance my work days. Like when I don't go to the gym for a
hmm
couple days, I'm like definitely off my game.
Okay. For the listeners, that's how I actually reintroduced myself to Chanel like last week. Literally saw her in the gym. I'm like, hi, my name's Theon. I remember you from Campion days. So yeah, and then here we are. It's kind of crazy. But yeah. Okay, and Javin.
Yeah. Yeah, no, for me, I play ultimate frisbee. So all right, I can't. I'm very
Love
competitive,
Ultimate
and
Frisbee.
so
Oh my goodness. You're
yo, so
bringing good memories back. That's crazy. I
yeah,
haven't played that in years. Wow.
so I play ultimate frisbee. I try to play twice a week, right? And I also play basketball, right? So I I I can't do gym. Like I find it. super boring. Like the only time I was really into liquid was my college years, right?
Wow.
And I'm just like, I need to compete, and I guess competing against myself yesterday don't do it for me. I like to play a game and win. I
Yeah.
like
Yep,
that
I feel
winning
that. I
feeling,
feel that. I feel that.
right?
Yo, like people, yo. Sometimes people tell me about what's the type of game where it's like you're not really competing. There's a name for it. Like people tell me about, oh, like they like those kind of games, and I'm just like, why would you play a game like that? Like what?
Yeah, and so I mean, I think it go back to my high school days because I did a lot of sports in high school, and I guess like that kind of just get wired into you, just the competing. And
So
I've toned down a lot over the years. I'm no longer super aggressive. I've learned how to lose sometimes without being mad. And I can just take a loss sometimes without
Hmm.
elbowing somebody. That's huge growth. And so yeah, no, but seriously, I play ultimate frisbee and that. And then I also really like outside. I love the beach. I love the hills, and I think Jamaica, we just have so many nice places outside and things that we can do. So I try my best to get out sometimes. You see me here in my office. It's now 8:30. I've been here since 7:30 this morning, right? Right. And so I spend a lot of time in these walls. So once I can get out, I really try to be outside.
Okay. Okay. I
Which
love
school did you go
that.
to?
I went to JC. I went to JC for high school, right? I did 7 years in JC at the time when JC was not as organized as it is right now. Uh, and then I did my first degree at Beloit College in Wisconsin, and then I did my MBA at FIU.
Okay.
And how tall are you? Cause you say you play basketball.
Yeah, I'm 6'2" and a little bit, between 6'2" and 6'3".
I didn't
Okay.
even know we
Love that.
have ultimate frisbee in Jamaica.
Yeah, man. There's a group that been playing here for donkey years. There's a group that's been playing in Jamaica for like 50 years, and so yeah. So there is an ultimate frisbee group. You can look them up on Instagram, Jamaica Ultimate.
Nice. Okay. Okay. All right, guys. Well, thank you guys for coming. I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as we enjoyed recording.
Definitely.
And to our lovely listeners, all the information we spoke about is in the prospectus, which we will link in the description. Of course, speak to a licensed financial advisor, right? Because, we're not those. So, yeah, speak to a licensed financial advisor. See if this is the company you want to invest in. I know we spoke about a lot of great stuff in it, so you can listen to us for our opinions, but they're just our opinions only. All right. Thank you
I
guys
like when
for
you play on
being here.
the great stuff, play on words.
Oh yeah. Thank you. I always intended to do that, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I remember the offer opens, was it August 28th, I think?
Yeah, August
Mhm.
28th is first come, first serve. So again, check your advisors, get your
Mhm.
applications in early if you plan to
Early.
Yeah,
plan
yeah,
to
guys,
invest
remember,
because
yep, it's probably not gonna stay open for long. I already sent
yeah,
in one application, so
big up,
Mhm.
we
respect for
will
that.
see. We will see.
Yeah.
Oh, is there
Good stuff,
anything
guys.
else you want to leave the listeners with, Javane?
I mean, for me, I'm just excited about this new stage. I think for us, we really see it as not an end goal, but really as the start of a new race. Essentially, like we've been building this company for the last 11 years, and now we have this opportunity to take it even further. Like we're really excited about the future, and I know it comes with a lot of work, but I I mean I don't. I'm just excited that we get the opportunity to be in a space like this. I think the Junior Stock Exchange is incredible for what it has done for a lot of small businesses, and I'm just
Agreed.
looking forward to delivering value for our shareholders. Like that's something that we take very seriously, and so yeah, look forward to that. Look forward to having you guys on board as shareholders. Yeah, and I think we have great things ahead at 1GS.
Okay. Love that. All right, guys. Thank you for coming on the show. And
Bye
that's it. Limitless. Out.